we can identify specifically people who God has ordained to be great in whatever sphere of influence they have. You can identify that by seeing your life right now where you are. What's always been your position? Hey there, Cornell back here with another episode. If this is your first time here, I welcome you. If you are a returning guest, listen, thank you so much for joining and always showing some love to the Cornell Jermaine YouTube channel. Listen, today I'm gonna start a conversation that's been in my heart for a long time now. I kind of left it there because I wasn't sure how I wanted to approach it or what I wanted to say about it. Well, I knew I wanted to say, but I didn't know if I was gonna say anything and just didn't want to delve into it until I felt the release, and I feel it now. I feel it as if it's the time. And that's this conversation centered around greatness. Because we hear this and we see in our social platforms and in media in general, celebrities are celebrated, people are celebrated for being great at whatever field, sector of society they are in. And many people aspire to that thrill of being awarded, or that thrill of being applauded by thousands of people, or that thrill of making a lot of money from whatever their craft or thing is. And they associate that with the term great. And I have to debunk that, because in my theory, those things are just byproducts of greatness. The applause, the money, the status, the awards, recognition. In my book, it's a fringe benefit, if you will. It just comes with the territory of greatness, but it's not greatness in its definition. And if we think about greatness, I want to define that for us, because I think having context really helps us to be able to track together. So the definition of great, and this is according to Oxford Dictionary, an amount or an intensity of considerably above or normal or average. It's the ability, quality, or immense above average ability. Many have also defined it as an important or distinguished person. So when we look at this conversation around great, when something is great, according to Oxford, it's something that is extended to an intense amount or level that is beyond what's considered normal. So we understand that this arena full of people applauding this artist who stood and had done a show, them getting applauded it's a great thing, because how many people get applauded by millions of people all at one time? Not many, right? It's above normal. How many people can just go to a bank account and withdraw or wire hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to their favorite initiative or charity? Not many, right? That's considered great. That's considered great. But those things are not great in and of itself. It's the byproduct of someone who has embraced greatness. And when I say embrace greatness, I think it's important to understand that greatness is a decision. And it's sometimes looked at an opportunity that is only given to certain individuals. But in my book, it's a decision, right? And it's a decision to embrace what it is that you've been given and how you will give it. Let's put a pin there and go to the next note that I have here, and that is this particular scripture. And I want to put this out here because I think it's important to the whole conversation. And this is from Matthew, the 22nd chapter, and it reads, Jesus commands, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. The first and greatest, the beyond measure, the high intensity. You put your high emphasis on this, loving the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. But here's the second commandment. Love your neighbor as yourself. When it comes to loving the Lord your God and loving your neighbor, it's a decision that we have to make as individuals. But the greatness comes when we intensify that decision by allowing our gifts, talents, skills, abilities, whatever we've been given, to serve that given person, community, etc., etc. The art of greatness is directly hinged upon one's ability to serve. And let me not just say ability, but willingness, because I believe we all have the ability if we want it, but not all of us have the willingness. So it's not just your ability to serve, because ability can sometimes mean, oh, somebody's able or capable and someone else is not. That's not true. Your willingness, though, is there, but it's based on your decision to do so. So when we look at this thing called greatness, and this conversation, we've coined it the way to great, the path to great.
we look at directly this one word called service. And the reason we look at that is because the scripture tells us in Matthew, the 23rd chapter, and he states in this simple phrase, he says, "And the greatest among you shall be your servant." This is Jesus having a conversation with the multitude, establishing order within this particular group of people. And he gives a directive that the greatest among you will be the servant, right? What does that mean? Again, we're talking about the intensity of a matter, but let's give a little bit more framework or context to that particular word. When you're talking about the greatest among you serve, it says the larger, right? Not just the larger, but the wiser, right? And not just the wiser, but the stronger. Those are the people that are supposed to be the servant. This is what Jesus said among the multitude. He established this. He said, those are the people that are supposed to be the servants. We've got it completely different in our society, right? Because we think the servants are the ones that are lower on the totem pole, quote unquote, right? Or the ones who have the least, right? Or the ones who are trying to get ahead and they just want to be in the company of the great. Those are the ones that serve. They serve on their level. But when we're talking about serving to a place of greatness, it's the greater ones, the ones who have larger resources, right? The ones who are wiser in knowledge, right? The ones who are stronger in might, the ones who are greater in vision. Those people are called to be the servants. But here's the caveat, here's the kicker, because life is going to demand more of you in these positions. And this is why many of you who have not, in your mind, achieved this level of greatness because you're measuring it according to dollars or how many applause you get, right? The awards, the recognition, you're measuring it against that. So you think you have not arrived to a place of greatness, but you don't realize your greatness is in seed form. Right now, it's in seed form right where you are. And the reason why you feel this huge demand on you, your life, your skills, your ability is because you're great. You somewhere along the line, somewhere in your makeup, you have a greater vision, you have a stronger might, you have larger or more apt resources, right? Wiser in knowledge. Somewhere along the line, you have more to give. So there's a greater demand on you. This is important to identify because this will allow you to see your greatness in seed form. Before it blossoms into this beautiful forest of trees or this beautiful edifice, before it grows into this beautiful thing that you can marvel at or the nations or people can marvel at, you can marvel at it right now because you can see it in seed form. And it's not to say that those who don't have the demand are not great, but we can identify specifically people who God has ordained to be great in whatever sphere of influence they have. You can identify that by seeing your life right now where you are. What's always been your position? What role have you always had to play? Why have people always called on you? And then I realize sometimes it leaves you in a place of exhaustion. It leaves you in a place of, I just want to worry about me and mine. Many of us get to that place because we feel like I'm tired of worrying about everybody else or being concerned with everybody else stuff. I just want to be concerned about me and mine, Nothing wrong with that, but when you're talking about this position of greatness, if greatness is your goal and you want to fulfill, because understand, greatness is not just some lofty goal that we put on a dream list and our bucket list. Well, I'm going to be great. I want to be great by 2022. I want to be great by this date, this day. It's not something that we just list in a lofty goal. Greatness is an assignment. It's not a dream goal. It's something that is assigned to you at birth. Just like the prophet told Jeremiah, I knew you and formed you. You know what I mean? I shaped you in your mother's. I knew you were great before you were birthed into the earth. The greatness is in your DNA. It's who you are. Those are the people that have to understand that they are not forgotten, that they are not at a loss, that they are not just moving haphazardly, but that they are on an assignment. And the moment you understand that, you can hone in on this greatness and serve it in a way that does not deplete you, but that serves you in the greater good and purpose for which you were created. This conversation of greatness is one that we understand and must take hold to. I'm going to even say dismantle, to demyth, to debunk, if you will, these philosophies and thoughts and ideals as it pertains to what greatness is in the world today. It's not celebrity. It can be, but it's not specifically. It's not money. It can be, but it's not specifically. Those are byproducts. Those are just fringe benefits of. Those things come with the territory. Maybe for some, maybe not for all. But the greatest is the one who can be the servant. And if you can serve well, and if you can serve from a place of love, because understand that he said the greatest commandment is that you love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul. And then to serve or to love one another. And the art of love is extended in service. And your ability to serve or your willingness to serve is your measure of love, not just for you, but for the people that God have called you to, the people that God has set apart for you to champion for, the people that God has set apart for you to serve. That love that you have, that love that he's given you, service is the art form. The art of love is service. And when we look at that, we understand that the way to greatness is not puffing our own selves up or allowing ourselves to put ourselves on a pedestal or someone else to put us up on a pedestal. It's not us being lofty and high on who we are, or who we think we are, right? It's about us understanding that what we've been given is meant to be served. And what we have is meant for someone else. And the greater the measure of that thing, the greater the degree of that thing, whatever it is, you have the responsibility to serve it to someone else. I'm put in this position all the time, and sometimes doing things and I'm like,
why am I? It's just too, I shouldn't have to.
And I'm thinking, I shouldn't, and then the Lord will check me because he'll say,
you've been given this, and you've been given access to this. You've been given resources and relationships in this area for this purpose.
Just today, I made a phone call for someone in order to open the door for them in an area that I know they would be useful in. And it wasn't of my own merit because I wasn't even thinking of them, and the Lord just dropped them in my heart. Now I'm facilitating, connecting.
Hey, you got this, whatever, we need this, whatever.
And I'm calling this one and making sure,
hey, this one's gonna do it.
I'm spending 30 minutes, 45 minutes facilitating this transaction, for someone. And all while looking at a laundry list of things that I have to do in my own work, But God said,
this is the measure of greatness that you've been given.
It's your responsibility to open the door. It's your responsibility to sow the seed. It's your responsibility to serve in a manner that shows respect and dignity to those you've been called to. So the way to great is to serve. We may talk about this for a couple of more episodes, but I think you get the picture as it pertains to this idea of greatness. And we can talk about many people whom we've deemed great in society. Many people we've deemed great. We can start from the Abe Lincolns to the Dr. Martin Luther Kings to the Malcolm X's of the world to the Marcus Garveys of the world. If you want to go to the entertainment, to the Pavarottis of the world, to the Aretha Franklins of the world, the Beyoncés of the world, the Michael Jacksons of the world, right? The Elvis Presleys of the world, right? Great people, many who are gone now, but their legacy still lives on. Why? Because they understood their level of greatness and they served that greatness unapologetically. They served that greatness to the best of their ability. And now society as a whole understands and sees that greatness and celebrates it, even after their death. These are people who serve. And you may say, oh, how they serve? No, they celebrity, they this, they that, and they got all these people. They serve people through their art form, through their gift, through their ability to galvanize around an issue, through their ability to speak and influence the mindsets of a generation in order to create solutions for issues that plague society. They were great in that manner. And to this day, people model themselves after many of those people that I mentioned. And you wonder how their greatness showed up? Many times, I'm sure of it. That instead of being home for holiday and enjoying their turkey like you, they're on the road, right? Instead of being home having ice cream in the yard and running with the children, they're on tour, they're rehearsing, they're studying, they're writing, they're speaking. This is the level of service that they had to have. This is the level of service they had in order to serve in a way that made them great. I recently just watched a documentary on Dr. King. I love the life of many of these people. I've heard many of the stories, seen many of the stories acted out in film, but every now and then I just like to rewatch. And I saw how he sacrificed time with his kids, his family, in an effort to serve this people that he believed, an effort to bring hope and healing to a land that he believed God had called him to serve. And in all that he did, what was so shocking is that he always felt this thing that he had not done enough, or that he could do more. Why? Because he knew the level of greatness that was in him to bring healing to this nation in the way that he was called to. And guess what? He served, and he served until he was taken out of here. That's greatness. And you hear it many times. The men who've been charged to be CEOs of companies, they have to be responsible for thousands of people and millions of dollars of revenue. I know one specifically that I won't name because he's active in his role, but responsible for millions of dollars of revenue. And if I said his name, you would know exactly who he is. But guess what? He does not come home many times at a decent, or what some would deem a decent hour. Why? Because his work demands of him. The blessing is he has a family, a wife who understands, and children who understand. But guess what? Do you believe that he wants to spend his nights like that all the time? Coming home 1, 2 in the morning, 12 at night? Up strategizing, team meetings on the weekends? Probably not, but he understands his assignment. And because he said, I'm willing to do it. And it's not sometimes for always. That's the thing that we have to understand. Sometimes you'll serve in a season and God will call you to a season. Some may be 5 years, 10 years, some may be 20 years, some may be 2 years. For Jesus, it was 3. If you understand that greatness is not just what society has deemed it as, but it's one's ability to recognize their gifting and serve it to others, you'll find that you're greater than you give yourself credit. You're greater than people have said you are, because you've measured it against things that are fleeting. The money, fleeting. The applause, fleeting. The pedestal that they sit you on, fleeting. They'll put you on it today and kick it from under you tomorrow. It won't mean a thing. But when you serve from your heart, love your neighbor as yourself, you'll find the greatness in its seed form. And before you know it, it will blossom into something beautiful that people now will recognize you for. The way to great is to serve. I thank you so much for joining me. Listen, if this episode has blessed you, please like it, give it a thumbs up, share it with a neighbor, and I'll see you next time, same place. Take care.